and I assumed you all consented to recording. Sorry about that. Okay, so I welcome everybody to the inaugural Konveyor governance meeting. We've hopefully we'll have some of the other folks from the community join us as well. Again, I'll paste the link in the chat to the agenda for today. There's a couple of topics that were put on the agenda yesterday. So there's three things. I think the first one, I think Ramon, you put the first two in there. Do you want to kick us off, and then I could talk through the hackathon with Robin?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the first one is to continue the conversation that we had back in the day in the last Konveyor demo meeting, which seemed a little bit misplaced within the discussion of the demo itself. And there was this topic of how to engage with the community, how to make sure that we were working on feedback cycles with users and things like that. And I also wanted to discuss the enhancements procedure and how it relates to our product discovery activities, because it seems it's being very hard for me to engage anyone to publish an enhancement. So I'm wondering if it should be us product managers creating the enhancements, or do we expect outsiders or new members of the community work with these enhancements? I'm wondering if it's maybe some sort of barrier for them to create, because it might be a little bit too hard. But nothing has been published in there so far, aside from crane-related stuff.
So
go ahead, John.
Yeah, the way I look at the enhancements is that the enhancements are not RFEs. They could maybe be used, but it's not a request for enhancement. So like an end user is not going to say, I want feature X, and then write up an enhancement. The enhancement is for the community of technical folks that are interested in something. If PM wants to write there, that's awesome. Mostly it's really for engineers to discuss, here's the architecture, here's the approach, this is what we envision we're going to build. And then we want everyone, users, PM, engineers, to review and then kind of collaborate towards that vision. Does that make sense?
Yes, but my next question would be, how do we manage RFEs then? Because from my understanding, this was one of the purposes of the enhancements procedure.
No.
So if
Okay,
it isn't,
that would be a miscommunication. So when you think about the enhancements, really it's a model that we are just copying because others in the community are doing this. We're copying the same model that OpenShift is doing in Kubernetes and then other large things. And we've done this for years with multiple kind of community initiatives that we've done. The first part of it is, can we open up the technical thoughts? Can we open that up? Can we document it? And can we share it with the community? So the first purpose of the enhancements, the reason why we created them, was for the technical side. It was the technical side, open up those conversations and to be more transparent. And the goal of it is to have folks look and then comment early. So if we're going to build something that's not going to satisfy a need, or if we're going to build something that's architecturally incorrect, we're trying to get those conversations out and open. So that's the first driver towards it. I think things could adapt and grow, and then you may be able to put other things on so we can make the process better. And for RFEs as of right now, I don't know where those go. What I would think of is that typically in the community, we'd see things like that get started as issues. So somebody would open up a GitHub issue, and in other things, it would be easy because you have a repo that makes sense for it. Like if you want to do this on forklift or for crane. Konveyor, since we're an umbrella community, maybe that's something we should discuss. But anyway, if you look at enhancements as of today, the original thought of it was to get technical discussions before we build something.
okay. So then, yeah, Phil, go ahead.
Yeah, before we build something based upon what requirements, John, what I'm missing is, it's I understand where you're coming from in terms of having a technical forum that other technical people can sort of digest and contribute to. That sounds great to me. I really like it, but it sounds like it's almost like a solution, but we haven't defined what the problem is. So I'm wondering, where are the requirements for these enhancements defined?
And Phil, great point. Just understand that this thing exists. This is done today, and this is a pattern folks use. I think you bring up a great point. It's just that this was never, ever the means of PM creating those requirements given to engineering team. So we are taking a solution or a pattern that exists in the community, and then we've decided to use it for something different. And that's fair if we want to. It's just to be cognizant of what this started as from. The whole requirement piece is done somewhere else.
Yeah, where do Kubernetes and projects like that then do the requirements? Do you happen to know?
I'll open up for others. What I have seen start is I've seen an issue start in a very easy, low friction thing. So an issue is created, a discussion begins in an issue. And then after there's some conversations in the issue and things get fleshed out, then I would see the next level become an enhancement. Others, though, may know more. So I'll just be quiet and kind of open stuff up.
But also the issue, in my opinion, with RFEs is in general, like an RFE would be attached to a customer story, and that's not something we want upstream. That's why we put that in Jira, because then I'll have this customer is asking for this feature, which is not something I want. So I think that right now, at least for what we do, I think the low level stuff goes upstream, which is like the technical details of how this is getting implemented. But the customer problem so far, it is on Crane, goes more in Jira because it can be attached to a customer story. Doesn't mean that has to be that way in the future, but that's how we do it today.
That's the way we would handle products, but in open source community, let's say one GSI wants something implemented in there. So we're talking about these guys opening an issue on a project, and that could kickstart the creation of an enhancement out of that issue.
Yeah,
correct.
Or
Or it could be one or more issues come together and map to a single enhancement.
Yeah, because I'm guessing the issue, getting somebody to open an issue would be a lot lower friction than getting them to do an enhancement, right?
Yeah, exactly, James.
So maybe the role of product managers, PM in this case, would be looking for common issues and then helping kickstart the enhancement process.
I think it makes sense. So as a product manager, our role should be to make sure that we're basically attending our users' needs. So for sure, taking into account the issues, the enhancements should be a top priority, but not only that, not adopting that kind of passive role. We need to get closer to the actual user. So that's what I was mentioning here. The product discovery activities and these feedback cycles we were talking about on the last meeting. So these first engagement with the IBM Office of the CIO, these things, other customers that are approaching us. So it's not that I'm asking for, let's define a formal way of doing this, but it's more about opening the conversation. How are you guys doing this? Is there any kind of guidelines you would like to follow, or any activities I might be missing, or not only myself? It was a topic that we opened on the last meeting. So I'm guessing Rushir was very interested in this thing as well, especially for the IBM Office of the CIO engagement. But try to have a common ground here across the whole community.
Yeah, makes sense. So it sounds like does anybody disagree that what we should do is drive people to open issues, and PMs can help with that process whenever they're meeting with customers or whoever or users, and then those can potentially become enhancements?
So the only thing I'm questioning is, what is the difference between an RFE in Jira and a GitHub issue? So when is it appropriate to do one versus the other, or both, or do we duplicate it?
I think it's you. I believe both have the same spirit, and then you adapt to whatever the needs are. So if it's a community person probably is going to feel that going to a GitHub issue is very low friction, and that's easiest for them. And then I think it comes on us as a product that's delivering. We probably use Jira as the source of truth of the actual, this is the roadmap of the product.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
The more we can do upstream, I think the better. The reality is some customers won't feel comfortable doing those sorts of things, so we'll just have to work with them.
And even some of them will use Red Hat support for the migration toolkits. They will use Red Hat support to create these RFEs that can then be translated into Jira or Vaxilas or whatever. But the entry point for the customer using the supported tool, I think, would be Red Hat support. At least for the migration toolkits, we're talking downstream here. It's the usual way I've seen customers opening RFEs in the past for products using the Red Hat support portal.
Okay. Anything else on this topic or thoughts?
Yes, I have one question. Sorry for being the the center of the conversation, but about these enhancements. So I definitely see what you're describing here and what the intention is, but I'm guessing enhancements get outdated as they progress in the future. The thing is there any way to have a consolidated view of what's available on each of the projects? Is the Konveyor community doing Kubernetes community doing something like that? Because enhancements, it's things that are going to be implemented, quite likely or not. It has yet to be decided. But having a actual guidelines of what's there on the actual project will be very useful for the end user, instead of having to deep dive into a collection of enhancements. Is there anything like that in Kubernetes?
Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, it's just how looking at the Konveyor enhancements repo now. I'm on, and it seems to be structured by and using a naming convention of the folders, which is related to the actual project itself. So so there's like a crane-1.x folder of enhancements, and there's a crane.20 folder of enhancements. So I think that's how the sort of group them together.
Yeah, that's a way of grouping them, but having a consolidated view of what has been put into the actual product. I saw Sean writing docs, but what I'm asking, of course, there could be docs. What I'm asking, if there is any kind of procedure to consolidate enhancements into the actual documentation of a project or something like that.
Would that not be the release document? Like every time, like that's more just the technical architecture of that feature that is an enhancement. Then what goes in the release, it's in the release doc.
Yeah, but the release would include the release notes, which are the things that have changed. So how can I see what's there, the full view of what's there, not only the latest news about what has been included, but a consolidated view of the architecture of this thing? Definitely you can build that by yourself manually. What I'm asking is if we are aware of any procedure coming from Kubernetes to keep track of the current status of the architecture of the project.
Savita, go ahead. I know you have experience here.
Hi. Kubernetes has a lot of process, and one of the easiest way to track is that there are few fields where you can immediately see the status of the enhancements, like is it an implementable stage or is it graduated or stuff like that. And all the architecture and everything goes into the KEP itself. So there is an enhancements repository which is organized based on organized based on 6, I think, at a higher level. And then inside the 6 there is a folder for each KEP, or a or at least a just one pager. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, James. And there, everything gets updated there. So that is the documentation for about the entire enhancement, the discussions, the user stories, and everything. And how they track it is that for every PR or for everything that goes into the repository, they actually create an issue with the same number, or they somehow map it, like they map it. So, for example, they create an issue like Crane has this new feature that we want. So we say Crane feature version 1.2 something, and the issue number is 13 or 14. And the PR gets created, or the KEP number becomes Crane 14, so that you can map the issue number with the KEP number. And in the issue, all the discussion happens. Like all the technical discussions starts happening in the issue, and you link the PR, and in the PR also it happens. So there is a history of both. The release team tracks the issues, not the PR. The PR is owned by the SIG and the enhancement owner, who is actually making changes, but all the discussion happens in the issue. I know it's a lot. Sorry if I was confusing. I haven't had my coffee. I'm so sorry, but I would love to chat with you later. If it's a lot, I can even walk you through. That's actually like, there are like people who volunteer for that, and it's we can do something simple if folks are interested, but not that heavy into like.
I was going to say that the Kubernetes one's pretty, it looks super advanced, but it also looks very heavyweight, right? So, but I like the idea of just tracking, if we track everything in an issue and then you just have a Google Sheet that's created in the Konveyor Google Drive that has what version is this tracking to, and does it have doc, does it have the, like, some simple milestones for an enhancement that have to make it, right? Is that fair? Like some lightweight process?
Yes.
Are we going to track that by project? Because what's a little slightly different here is that we don't really version Konveyor.
Yeah, I would think in the enhancements director, in the enhancements repo, right now you just have Crane 1.x2. We should probably have it for all the projects there.
Okay.
And then follow some similar process with like sorry, the Kubernetes 1.23
Yep.
tracking I put in there. We could do something simple like that just has an issue and where it is. Okay.
Okay.
Is that so? Who wants to actually try and, like, is that on each project to go ahead and create those directories inside the enhancements? Okay.
I'd say so, yeah, from what I understood.
And then do you guys just want to take the Google Sheet from Kubernetes 1.23 and make a copy of it and put it in the Konveyor drive? And I don't know, what's the best way to do that? Go ahead, Steve.
I am against Kubernetes enhancement sheets. It's a monstrous. It's super clean. The moment you touch something, the other tabs go crazy. I suffered for 1.5 years. So I don't want to copy that ever. I don't want to touch that ever. If someone wants to ask me, we can do something similar, but start simple. But that sheet, please don't copy it. It's just
fair. It worked for me, John. If you want to do some kind of labels, I guess like we just need somebody to kind of decide and put it out there, and then everybody else kind of copy it, right?
Yeah, I think there's several things we could do, James. Probably what we need to do is just maybe the smaller group just figure out what's the actual thing we need, and once we figure out what we need, we'll find the lightest thing. Then we can always grow.
Okay, Sean, go ahead.
Oh, I think John just hit on it. I was going to ask what are we trying to solve by tracking this versus like right now it seems like we have much more engagement from our downstream process, Jira, PM, bringing stuff in. We don't have lots of folks communicating, bringing things together, bringing technical decisions and things like that for releasing. So my question was, who is this built for right now? And do we need to do all the hard stuff? But it sounds like John was. I agree. We should have a smaller subset of folks to figure that out.
Yeah, I think that the idea is that we want PM as much as possible to start doing this upstream. You know what I mean? And wherever they can, start creating issues and enhancements there, unless they're, you know, very specific to a customer that we can't share or something, and we have to, you know, open, you know, Jira against. I think it would be better to do these things upstream, start modeling it, and do it and have a process that's open enough and low friction enough that others can open issues as well like this. And then the point of tracking it, I think, was to Ramon's point of trying to understand what's all, if I want to understand everything that's in a release or where everything is in process, where do you see it?
And
But-
Ramon's point also, I think, has to bring in that there's this concept of things going stale or drifting, changing. And that one is, I don't know the spreadsheet's really going to track that. So it might be hard to, what Ramon's going after is a great thing if we could do it. I don't know what the right way to do that is. That might be hard. And it could be a case that's one of those like aspirational goals we go after, but maybe we can't hit it right at. And if we go, the other one is the whole thing is starting simple. If we just go, what's the biggest things we need to focus on? I think one big one is transparency on the development side of what's actually being built, and then engagement more into upstream so we get earlier feedback and earlier discussions. And if we can get that spirit of earlier discussions, transparency, I think that's the core, what's going to make things better. And then we can always add on to it.
So who's the small group that wants to figure out the lightweight process?
I'll help out with that, James. And I think Savitha would be awesome if I could have her help me with that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Eric and I talked about what to do with stale enhancements, or like, I know folks are busy with a lot of enhancements work, and it's kind of slipped. So we came up with something lightweight. I haven't had the time to work on it yet. So we thought about just sending a very gentle reminder mail, every automated mail every month, telling that it's in the pie, this is all in the queue, and this is all haven't been touched for a while, or something like very simple. Not make the mail super noisy, but start something small. That might address the issue. And if people want more streamlined, we can do labels, how Kubernetes does it, but that can come like later.
Okay.
And I'm happy to help John.
Okay. Who else wants to be involved in that? Anybody from any of the other projects want to join in?
Come on, tackle guys, you can do it. I mean, I can be involved, but I don't know if a PM is the best choice here, but I'm happy to help. Miguel, you're raising your hand.
It's just that some time ago I said, I mean, we have a document, I take notes from any feature that requires some discussion, or there's some decision to be made around a feature, or any change that we need to do on a feature, okay? And I keep it in a Google document. So some time ago I suggested, hey, can I put this in enhancements? And I was told, oh, this is for something else. So I'm not sure if now we're saying, can I do this or not? So I'm curious about that, because I already tried this and I was told, look, this is not for what you think. This is not for this kind of discussions on changes to the application. So are we changing our mind here, or aren't we?
That's a good one.
If we are, I'm interested.
I guess probably have to see the I don't know the contents of your Google Doc, but I think what we're saying here is create issues on the upstream projects. Those issues could become enhancements, right? So yeah. What we're saying is, yes, like you would put that stuff.
Well, my suggestion was the other way around. I create an enhancement saying, okay, this is the idea. And then when there's some clear action to be done, then you create an issue. And then
well, it's a little bit different now, but we can take the spirit of what you're going with. Your spirit of what you have, and we can totally work with it. You may be seeing more than what others have seen. And what we could do is that if you have in your mind a lot of the details of what that thing should be, then you could just you can go right to enhancement if you wanted to. We probably would want some little issue. But I think what the other spirit that James is going for is that the lowest friction possible to get that concept in someone's mind. The lowest friction is the issue. In your case, you know a lot more. So the issue, if you can just, that's one area, but the enhancement's like the meat of it. And I think you have the meat in your mind of what that thing's going to be. So you can put that into the enhancement. And what that enhancement could become, it could be a dual thing that is worked by PM and engineering. And you on
Okay.
the PM side, you can say, this is the vision, here are the requirements. As Phil is going to, where do we get those requirements? You could capture that stuff in there. And then we'd have engineering come in and flesh out the architecture. The original spirit of the enhancement was more to get engineers to be transparent, but we can always adapt this more and throw more requirements in there, things like that. That stuff is awesome. And I think the thing we just really want to be careful of is low friction. Have something so we can grab that little insight that a customer has, and it takes them a minute and they capture it. And then afterwards, also on the team that's implementing or designing, whatever, we can always take the further burden of the enhancement.
Okay.
So let me suggest this just in the interest of getting to the other topics as well. So if anybody else wants to be involved, ping John and Savitha. And then I was going to suggest maybe in 2 weeks at our next call, Savitha, John, you guys can demo your lightweight process for issue enhancement to everybody here and just say, here's how it works. And then everybody can give feedback on that.
Sounds good,
Okay.
James.
Okay,
Nice.
cool.
Thanks.
All right, I know the next topic was inclusion of IBM research tools into the tackle demo. Can I intervene and put the hackathon above that real quick since we only have 15 minutes?
You're the boss.
No. I was just, the reason I'm saying that is because, so the Konveyor hackathon, so there's a document I'll put in the chat here and it's linked in the agenda. So the idea here was to hold a hackathon so that we can have users use the tools in real time in, not in perfect, pristine demo environments, but in whatever you want. You tell them what you want them to try and do. And then we have engineering, PM, and UXD and QE and anybody basically in the room with them. And the thinking that Robin and I met yesterday, and the thinking was we would have 3-4 hour sessions, like 8 a.m. Eastern to noon for 3 days or something like that, where we can have time for this. And so we put this doc together, and what we were trying to get, what we believe the next steps would be to find out who we want to invite to each of these. So basically, like the tackle team, you would put into this group invited participants who you want to invite to your hackathon. Crane team, forklift team, move to Cube. Then what we would do is we would send out to those invited participants what weeks work best for you. Like we would have several weeks to see what they select. If it turns out that they all select the different weeks based on like if all the tackle participants are available more in January 4th, right, and all the forklift people are available January 18th, then what we would do is we would hold them separately, the hackathons, and so that we could maximize the participation. So my ask, and I know I asked Miguel, Marco, and Ramon this, and Ashok and Amit as well, was to put your invited participants in here so that we could then go find out what date ranges work best for them. And after that, we would then set these up and start working towards those dates. But go ahead, Ramon. That's the other question.
Yeah, one thing, if we're going to make this document public, a copy of this document public, I'm a bit worried about data protection. If we put, a gazillion email addresses in there, I don't want to have problems with data protection. If, let's say, I add some people in there and all of a sudden all these emails are on a public document out there.
Yeah, that's fair. We could leave it private, and but we could still open up the hackathon to the community and tell them how to get involved. Like we could put some form out there or something afterwards. That's a fair point. I don't want to help somebody's marketing email list. But that's basically the idea, was if we can get the participant list down, if you know of people that you think should be involved in this, please add them in there. And then maybe let's do that by Monday, the 8th. And then Robin and I will send out forms to them, trying to find out the best times for them. Then we'll come back and say, here's the best times that work. And then we'll work backwards from there to get some sort of instructions. And my idea would be that, each of the teams would have to figure out, how to, what they want to provide, whether it's like you need lab environments or you don't, and then we'd have to, figure out what we need to do.
We'll likely need a little bit more time. I'll reach out to Stefan in my case to get is mine on like who should assess, but I'm not sure we'll be able to reply that by Monday. Like that seems a bit aggressive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could always I don't think you could always take like the people on Stefan's team and just add them in there and then send them a survey of what days they'd be able to participate, right? Okay, let's try. Yeah, I mean, if the faster we can get it in there, the faster we can get the survey out to them and figure out what dates. So that's all I wanted to cover on here today. Just kind of a heads up. So we don't know what the dates are yet, I guess, is what I'm getting at. So let's get the people that we want involved first. All right, last topic, the inclusion of IBM research tools into the tackle demo, or into the tackle demo. So, or in the conveyor demo, I guess we should say, right? The end-to-end demo.
Yeah, well, the tackle part of the conveyor demo, I was meant to say. So yeah, this comes from a request from Rachel Sorev from the tackle testing team. So I told her to add the topic in here, but she's not here, so I added the topic myself. So I know other team members from the IBM research projects from Tackle are willing to have their contents included in here. So one of the things that I wanted to discuss is whether we should wait until this whole thing gets fully integrated within Tackle in the user, integrated user experience, or are we envisioning doing also demos of the different standalone tools? That's something I guess we all need to decide together.
I'd be okay with including them earlier because I think it helps us actually understand how they're going to come together. But I think I'm guessing we would have to have a commitment from those teams, right? Like on the tackle test team and config discovery team and so on. Container advisor.
But would that be part of this 45 minutes end-to-end demo session, or are we talking about having, because we still need to figure out the marketing aspect of the demo thing with the conveyor? Are we going to still promote and work on the end-to-end demo, or do we want to split it on different demos? Because if we're going to include different projects with different product user experience in there, then 15 minutes is not going to cut it. Nobody's going to understand what they're seeing.
Yeah, no, I get it. I don't know. I'm open to other people. I think it was a useful exercise. I would like to continue it, and I don't mind if it ends up being longer and it's more of a demo for the community itself and not necessarily, a shortened version that we, I think if it's useful for the community and for us, I think we should continue doing it. What does everybody think? Go ahead, Phil.
Just so I understand what the question is here. We have that. Well, James, Marco, and Ramon, and everybody else invested a lot of time in putting together that 45-minute demonstration, which I thought was extremely slick and very, very well done indeed, and really showcased our capabilities very well. Are we talking about the further rollout of that demonstration so it reaches a wider audience, or are we discussing? Is that the thing we're discussing? Do we want to sort of augment that with additional things, or are we?
I would say both things. The question is more about additional things, but there's also the audience for this thing that was left unsolved in the previous meeting. So that's why I brought the issue here.
Obviously, if there's other things out there that are mature enough to demonstrate and add real value to the migration story, then we need to find a way of showcasing those as well. But I think it's a judgment call about how coherent the message will be if we've got a number of different tools that fill different niches, and if we are going to demonstrate them all together, we've got to find the glue that makes the whole thing a coherent story, don't we? And that might be the challenge, in my opinion. I'll shut up and let Maya or somebody else have a conversation.
Sure. No, thanks, Phil. No, I agree. So from my perspective, I think there is a practical challenge of what can be and what is the timeline to potentially integrate things into end-to-end demo versus having a narrative of use cases on top of current end-to-end story, where potentially, I think, from my perspective, in terms of maturity, that would mean inclusion of TCA, which would be somewhere up front, like jointly with Pathfinder, which is a point of integration that's somewhere on the roadmap, but I don't know if that would be manageable to do for the end-to-end demo and tackle test. So from the use case narrative, I think it's doable. I'm just not sure what's manageable actually to be fully integrated. And yes, there is the challenge that also Ramon brought up is of a consistent look and feel, I would say, at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think I fully agree with you. So a couple things. One, I think the existing work we did, Jonathan and Tam on my team are supposed to be like, they have a marketing plan for this that they're trying to work on to how to promote that more broadly. So I think that's fine. I think if we're going to enhance the demonstration and add more to it, I think that's good. And I think if it goes longer and it gets bigger, so be it. Like they can figure out how to chunk parts of the demo into manageable pieces and use on social and whatever else. I would say the reason we do it is for our own benefit and the community's benefit to actually understand how these tools and the methodology come together. So I think the first step, Ramon, my thought was the first step should be that the tackle test team and the TCA team and everybody else should go into that Miro board and storyboard where they think it would fit in, right? Maybe there's a group of people that get together, storyboard where that comes together, and then get it running in the lab and actually show it. Because I don't think we should wait for a perfect user experience, right, or a common user experience before we start doing this. I think we should put it in there, and that should inform how the design changes, right, but
that's great. To showcase the tools as early as possible, definitely. But with the time constraints that we had, it's difficult to pull off. If we don't have these time constraints, I will be up to it 100%.
So I think we take the time constraint off. So who needs to work on that story? Like who from the tackle test team, who from TCA, who from the overall tackle group would work on that?
I think we could, I mean, I'll connect with Jin, right? But at least Jin, Anoop, Saurabh, and Rachel at minimum, and JR from my thinking.
Right. Maybe Ramon, I guess. Mark
Yeah,
said,
I mean, Ramon, yeah, obviously.
If the five of you, I mean, do we want to use that as a follow-up? Like take that Miro board, extend it, put what you want in there, and then kind of come back to the group and we can share it and see what everybody thinks.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if we will have something in a couple of weeks, but we can at least try.
Yeah, that works. So maybe I'll just put it out there as a check-in for the next. See how it went. Okay. All right. I know we have 5 minutes left. Anybody have any other topics, or maybe even Maya? I know you still have your hand up. I don't know if you had something or if you just accidentally left it up.
No, that was a follow-up. I'll hand it over. Thanks.
That's the problem with virtually raising your hand. Your arm doesn't get tired. So I don't know. Does anybody have any feedback on the meeting itself? Like, was this useful? Good to keep on for keep going? Any other changes we want to make to this?
I think it was useful just to decouple, right, from the couple of weeks ago where we started with a more technical discussion and topics were mixed up. But I think periodically would be good to have this type of session. That's my call.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess I could stop the recording here, and we can get 4 minutes back. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you in 2 weeks.
I think you.